Graphing linear equations. Linear equations are graphed on the xy plane. The x-axis goes across and the y-axis goes up and down. The x and y-axis divide our coordinate plane into 4 parts called quadrants. Quadrant 1 is in the upper right, moving counterclockwise. Quadrant 2 is in the upper left. Quadrant 3 is in the bottom left. And quadrant 4 is in the bottom right. Each quadrant is labeled with a Roman numeral. When plotting points, you always do so in the format of x, y. When you plot your points, you always start at the origin, which is where the x and y axis cross, at 0, 0. If we were to plot the ordered pair, 2, 3, we would first start at the origin, and we would move 2 across on the x-axis, then 3 up on the y-axis. Then we make our dot. If you were graphing the ordered pair, -4, -1, we would again start at the origin, this time moving to the left 4, then down 1, and make our point. When graphing ordered pairs on the xy coordinate plane, the first quadrant will always have ordered pairs with a positive x and a positive y. The second quadrant will have a negative x and a positive y. The third quadrant will have a negative x and a negative y. And the fourth quadrant will have a positive x and a negative y. An ordered pair is a solution of an equation in x and y if the equation becomes a true statement when A is substituted for x and B is substituted for y. We could say that point satisfies the equation. The solution set of an equation is the set of all solutions of the equation. A graph of an equation in 2 variables is the set of points that correspond to all solutions of the equation. If an equation can be put into the form of y equals mx plus b, where m and b are constants, then the graph of the equation is a line. M will be your slope, b is your y-intercept, and all points on the line can be substituted in for x and y. For this example, we want to find 3 solutions and graph the equation y equals 3x plus 2. The first thing we need to do is to find points that satisfy the equation of y equals 3x plus 2. We can do this by substituting in for x or substituting in for y. We can create an xy table to keep track of our ordered pairs. Since our equation is y equals, it's going to be easier to substitute in for x. We can choose any number we want for x. I'm going to use 1, 0, and -1. Replace my x value with 1. So y equals 3 times 1 plus 2, which gives us 5. Our first order pair is 1, 5. Now I'm going to replace x with 0. So 3 times 0 plus 2 is going to give us 2 for our y. Then I'm going to substitute in with -1. So 3 times -1 plus 2 is -1. Now that I have my 3 ordered pairs, I'm ready to graph my line. So in graphing our line, we first want to draw our 3 points, 1, 5, 0, 2, and -1, -1. So now we have the line for y equals 3x plus 2. In this example, we want to find 3 solutions and graph the equation 3 open parentheses 2x minus y close parentheses equals 4 open parentheses 2x plus 3 close parentheses minus 5x. Our first step is to get rid of the parentheses and then try to solve it for y. If we solve the equation for y, we have y equals, and it's much easier to substitute for x. My first step is to distribute the 3. 3 times 2x gives me 6x. Minus 3 times y is 3y equals 4 times 2x is 8x plus 4 times 3 is 12. And we bring down the minus 5x. On the right side, we can combine like terms. So now we have 6x minus 3y equals 3x plus 12. To solve for y, we now want to subtract 6x from both sides. So we have negative 3y equals negative 3x plus 12. Then we want to divide everything by negative 3. So y equals x minus 4. Now that we have y equals x minus 4, we are ready to substitute in values for x to find y and get our 3 points. So now we have y equals x minus 4. For x, I'm going to go again with 1, 0, and negative 1. Replacing the x with 1, y equals 1 minus 4, which is negative 3. So our first order pair is 1, negative 3. Now we'll replace x with 0, and I get negative 4. Then replace x with negative 1. Negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. Now we're ready to plot our points. So I have 1, negative 3, 0, negative 4, negative 1, negative 5. And we draw our line. So now we have graphed the equation of the line 3 parentheses 2x minus y equals 4 parentheses 2x plus 3 minus 5x. Finding intercepts of a graph. Another way that we can graph an equation is by finding the x and y intercept. The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, and in this case, the intercept is 6, 0. And the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. In this case, our y-intercept is 0, 3. When finding the intercepts of a graph, to find the x-coordinate of each x-intercept, we substitute 0 for y and solve for x. To find the y-coordinate of each y-intercept, substitute 0 in for x and solve for y. So we want to find our graph for 3x minus 4y equals 12 by finding the x and y intercept of the graph. So to find the x-intercept, we're going to let y equal 0. So 3x minus 4 times 0 equals 12 becomes 3x equals 12. Divide both sides by 3, and x equals 4. So our x-intercept is 4, 0. To find our y-intercept, we're going to let x equal 0. So we substitute 0 in for x. So we have 3 times 0 minus 4y equals 12. This simplifies to negative 4y equals 12. Divide both sides by negative 4, y equals negative 3. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 3. So now that we have our two-order pairs, we can graph our equation. Plot 4, 0, and 0, negative 3. And now we're ready to draw our line. So now we have the line for the equation 3x minus 4y equals 12. Horizontal and vertical lines. An equation that can be put into the form x equals a has a vertical line as its graph. When you only have your x variable, you have a straight line through that value of x. So if x equals 3, you're going to have a straight line through 3. An equation that can be put into the form y equals b has a horizontal line as its graph. So your y equals equation goes straight across. So if y equals 3, then all the y coordinates for those points would be 3. In this example, we want to graph the line x equals 2. So our first step is to find 2 on the x-axis. Then we want to draw a straight line through 2. Any x value is going to be 2. This line can have the ordered pair of 2, 0, 2, 4, or even 2, -2. As long as your x-coordinate is 2, y can be any number. In this example, we want to graph the line y equals -3. Find -3 on the y-axis and draw a line straight through. X can be any value as long as your y is -3. So I can have the order pair -5, -3, 0, -3, or even 1, -3. X can be any value as long as my y value is -3. When graphing linear equations, one method is to choose 3 points that are solutions for the line. We can do that by choosing a value for x, substituting and finding y, or choosing a value for y, substituting and finding x. Another way to graph our equation is to find the intercepts of the graph. For the x-intercept, y equals 0. For the y-intercept, x equals 0. We can substitute and then find our points. A horizontal line is a line that goes through y equals. A vertical line is a line that goes through x equals.